Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on Elektra by Jennifer Saint. Elektra by Jennifer Saint tells the story of three women during and following the Trojan War. Clytemnestra is the wife of King Agamemnon. She seeks revenge against her husband after he commits a most heinous crime. Elektra is the daughter of Agamemnon. She seeks to preserve the legacy of her father and prevent her mother from doing the unthinkable. Cassandra is a princess of Troy. Her gifts of prophecy lead her to a knowledge of what's to come to her city, but no one believes her. These three women are tied together through war and violence, and they cannot escape the destiny that awaits them. I have some mixed feelings about this book, yeah, guys. Let me see if I can try to tackle some of my feelings within this review. Last year I did read Jennifer Saint's Ariadne. I was pretty thoroughly impressed with Ariadne. I really enjoyed it. Even in my review for Ariadne, I was talking about how there's aspects of Greek mythology that I'm very familiar with, but Ariadne, all I knew about Ariadne was her whole involvement with Theseus and the Minotaur and how she helps him get through the labyrinth. But after that, I didn't know what Ariadne's story was. So I found Ariadne to be a very refreshing book about mythology and whatnot. So yeah, this book, part of my issue with Elektra is that I felt like this book was kind of just rehashing some of the same things I've already read from other books in previous years. For whatever reason, it seems like there has just been an overabundance of historical fiction slash like Greek mythology retellings, however you kind of want to view that. There's been an overabundance of books that have taken place either during like the Iliad or the Odyssey or just the Trojan War in general. And all of these authors, it's like they're kind of tackling the exact same thing and like showcasing the female point of view. And it's kind of gotten to the point that it's like this is just a rehash of another book that I read maybe last year or the year before that or a couple years ago. There's been so many books taking place during the Trojan War, once again through the female perspective. And yeah, it's like I already know this story. What you're doing is nothing new to the story. You're not adding anything new. So yeah, that was definitely my biggest issue with this book. I just felt like the story has already been told, if not possibly better by other authors. And something that's kind of irritating me, you guys, ladies, because I'm a lady myself, you could let me know, maybe I'm out of line, but I'm kind of irritated by publishers throwing out the word feminist retelling. Like, it's kind of gotten to the point that publishers are just throwing out feminist retelling as just a means of trying to grab the eye of a potential reader, if that makes sense. And it's like, well, aren't the other books feminist retellings too? I mean, what's different about this feminist retelling? Once again, it all just comes back to a lot of these authors are just rehashing the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. The themes and the messages are all the same. There's just nothing unique or different. So once again, that was just my biggest issue with this book. I kind of found myself a little bored. It's like I desperately wanted Jennifer Saint to really do something different and to do something that would truly shock me and something that I wouldn't be expecting. The Trojan War is something that many of us are very, very familiar with. We know where it starts, where the middle goes, where the ending goes, the aftermath. We know a lot of that. And it's like, do something I don't know. Do something that is really going to maybe twist the narrative, like, oh, make me rethink about something differently. And yeah, this book never did that, unfortunately. And we have the point of view of three women in this novel. We have Elektra herself, who is the daughter of King Agamemnon, and his wife Clytemnestra. And then we also have Cassandra, who is a princess of Troy, who's a seer. We have this point of view of these three women, and unfortunately, I hate when any sort of mythology book does this. I hate when mythology, it's just kind of being retold, but just through the eyes of characters, and they're just telling us things. These women were just telling us the story of what's going on rather than being like proactive in what's actually going on, if that makes sense. I often felt like these three women were just commentating the whole time. You know, like on YouTube, like, because a lot of people tend to do this a lot of time on YouTube, like, oh, the first time I'm watching this movie, the first time I'm watching this TV series, and they're just sitting there watching it and they're just commentating. You know, they're commentating rather than like maybe kind of reviewing or giving their feelings more than anything. They're just kind of reacting to those moments. And that's kind of what these women were exactly doing. They were commentating and kind of just reacting rather than actually doing anything. Like, once again, nothing ever felt like a shock or a surprise. It's like I needed these women to feel something, you know. It's like they already knew what was coming because the author Jennifer Saint knows what's coming, and so the characters themselves almost act like they kind of know what's coming, which is bizarre. Now, to be honest, I think the only part of this book, weirdly enough, that was kind of surprising to me that I wasn't familiar with was probably the last maybe 10% of this book, because it starts getting into the am I pronouncing this correctly? The Orestia, because I know there's like some other Greek mythology out there called the Orestia. Once again, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it's like a trilogy of books, and a lot of it takes place, I think, after the events of Troy and whatnot. So to be honest, that was really the only surprising elements of this book was like I said, the last 10% or so, because it was going into the Orestia territory, which I'm not entirely very familiar with. So a lot of that I was like, ooh, you know, flipping the page, like, ooh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Because I wasn't entirely sure. So let's talk about our three main characters who narrate this story. I'm not even quite sure how to even feel about these women. Oh my god. I saw a ton of reviews on Goodreads. It was kind of hysterical sometimes just going through people's reviews. A lot of people saying that these women were all very whiny and irritating and frustrating, and there was just a lack of motivation and this and that. And yeah, to totally be fair to those reviewers, I totally see your point of view. Kind of one of those rare instances when I'm going through Goodreads and it's like I totally agree with a lot of the reviews. Yet these women, they did. It's so unfortunate. It's like these women should all be very strong, powerful women to some extent, you know, despite living in, you know, in ancient Greece and whatnot. It's like they should all, it's like you still want to kind of get a sense of them being independent and strong in their own ways during this time period. But yeah, they all did come across as very whiny and irritating, and I never sometimes just, I was like, well, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you saying what you're saying? You know, and just a complete lack of communication between these women and other characters. It's like, why aren't you talking to this person? Why exactly? And unfortunately as well, each woman just felt so incredibly one-dimensional, just no depth to them. It's like each woman had their one thing they were going after, their one goal, their one agenda. It's like they never really kind of deviated from that. They never had alternating opinions, you know. It's like they all had their one thing they were tackling, their one emotional state of mind that they were tackling. It's like, give me more. For instance, Clytemnestra, like I said, she's the wife of King Agamemnon. Clytemnestra, the entire novel, she is just seeking revenge, and she's so hateful and bitter towards her husband. Now, yes, she definitely has reason to be, but it's like, well, give me more than that, you know, because once again, she's just coming across as a hateful, bitter woman. It's like, I wanted to see so much more from her. And then, yeah, her daughter, Elektra, who this novel is called for whatever reason. I'm still confused why this book is called Elektra. I really think this should have been called something else to encompass like all three women, if that makes sense. The title definitely makes absolutely no sense. I mean, you even have three women on here. It's like, well, which one's supposed to be Elektra, you know? But yeah, once again, even with Elektra, daughter of Agamemnon, Elektra spends the entire novel being hateful and bitter towards her mother because of how her mother is behaving towards her father and whatnot. And yeah, that's just the one place she stays this entire book. And oh my god, don't even get me started about poor Cassandra. Oh my god. You know, Cassandra probably should have been the most interesting character in this entire book, considering that she's a seer and a princess of Troy. But oh my gosh, she was so dull and boring, and Jennifer Saint never lets her do anything. It's like you have a character who can see the future and kind of interact with the present, hopefully in interesting ways. But Cassandra is just, she comes across as so demure and shy and unwilling to do anything. And once again, then this is when elements of the story start coming into play that Cassandra, she just feels like she's reacting and commentating to things rather than being proactive and doing things. For God's sake, she can see the future. Do something. So yeah, all three of these women, Jennifer Saint just doesn't allow them to do anything interesting. They all just have their one state of mind, their one emotional place that they're at, and it was so frustrating. And to be quite honest, I don't even think Cassandra needed to be in this book. I think Jennifer Saint just wanted to have a character whose point of view was within Troy, you know what I mean? Because she has the point of view of Clytemnestra and Elektra, but yeah, Cassandra a lot of times did truly just feel horribly out of place from the rest of the narrative, and yeah, just, I don't know. If I was writing this book, I would have just totally sliced Cassandra's chapters out of here. They didn't need to be in here. I just thought of a title of this book because of the next part of the review I'm about to get to. This book probably should have been called House of Atreus. Seriously, because the House of Atreus is the family that characters like Agamemnon and his brother Menelaus, that is their house. And yeah, there's like this big ancient family curse that's on the House of Atreus and whatnot. And yeah, Clytemnestra and Elektra, it's like they're kind of tackling with whatever this curse is, if there is really even a curse, you know. So yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, this book should have been called House of Atreus. I think that would have been a much more eye-catching story. And once again, cut Cassandra out of there and just simply focus on the relationship between Clytemnestra and Elektra, you know, mother-daughter and whatnot. And yeah, speaking of kind of moving into the family aspect of the story, I really wish King Agamemnon had been in this book a hell of a lot more, because a lot of the events of the story and why Clytemnestra and Elektra are kind of behaving in the way that they are, a lot of it has to do with their relationship with Agamemnon. For Clytemnestra, that being her husband; for Elektra, that being her father. Agamemnon is barely even in this book. But you have two of our main characters here who are constantly bitching and griping about him, and it's like, Jennifer Saint, give me a reason why, you know? Once again, I mean, if you know the story, you know why Clytemnestra is severely pissed off at her husband. Yeah, she is rightfully supposed to be angry, and I totally get that. But it's like, I would have loved to have seen more of her relationship pre the crisis that happens, the event that happens. I would have loved to have seen the relationship between Clytemnestra and Agamemnon like a lot more in depth, because it's tackled very briefly at the start of this book, and I would have loved to have spent a lot more time with that relationship, so that way when the betrayal happens later, the event that happens later, that way you the reader, it's like, oh, you know, it's really kind of tugging you down right alongside Clytemnestra, and you feel that severe betrayal as well. So, and then, yeah, I would have also loved to have seen more time spent with Elektra and Agamemnon, once again, father-daughter, because Elektra spends the whole book just hating her mother because of what her mother is doing and how she's behaving towards her husband and whatnot. It's like, I would have loved to have seen more interactions between Elektra and her father, why Elektra admires him so much, why she supports him. Yeah, it's like she's daddy's little girl and whatnot. It's like, I needed a lot more of that. Like, this book really needed to have a lot more Trojan War, if that makes sense. It needed to have a hell of a lot more pre-Trojan War, and then the Trojan War kind of filling up the middle, and then the aftermath of the Trojan War taking up the end. Because I think this book should have really tackled pre-Trojan War and really built up those relationships very strongly, so that way you understand the points of view that these women are coming to, and why they're behaving the way that they are, and why their relationships are shifting. Because then, yeah, this book, it's a very short book, and things are happening fairly quickly, and it's kind of overwhelming, like, oh, why are they behaving this way? Why are they acting this way? Because you've not really given me much of a sense of why they need to be behaving this way, I guess, if that makes sense. So, in conclusion, you guys, I definitely have some strong mixed feelings about this book. It's like, it was good in its own way, you know? It's like, I appreciated it for what it was, but yeah, it's just, I wish Jennifer Saint had taken advantage and done more with this book. I was not a fan of the commentating and reacting rather than characters actually doing something. You know, I wasn't a fan of that. Cassandra just, unfortunately, even though I really like Cassandra in the story of Troy and whatnot, it's like Cassandra provided nothing to this narrative, unfortunately. Yeah, I just needed a lot more with the family dynamic. I think, once again, I said this book should have probably been called House of Atreus. I think this book really missed an opportunity to tell a really great, compelling family story, family drama, family tragedy, because I think that's what I was looking for. You know, I think once I concluded this book, I was like, that's what I needed. You know, I needed that family drama. And yeah, that was just severely lacking, unfortunately, and just a wasted opportunity, wasted potential. But yeah, that all being said, I mean, I'm still looking forward to what Jennifer Saint produces next. Hopefully that will be much better done. You know, maybe much more in line with Ariadne, because like I said, I really enjoyed Ariadne. But yeah, Elektra, I think you were done dirty. I think this book was done dirty, unfortunately. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on Elektra. In the comments below, how did you guys feel about this book if you read it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you have some similar problems and issues like I did? Or maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I'm just nitpicky. Who knows? So yeah, you guys, that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.